Time for our first interview of today. We will be talking to Elru from the Early Learning Research Unit.
Tracy is joining us on the line. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks. And you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having time to speak to us. And also, we're speaking one of the most important things, which is ECD, man, in the country. Early learning. And quick, before Tracy, we go straight into what is Elru all about. How did you all start it, being involved in early learning? I know that when it comes to early learning, you must be patient. You must have a vision of what you want because you're dealing with sometimes with kids, especially young ones. But for the love for early learning, when did it started for you?
I think for me, I always actually love children, and the plight, especially of young children in our country, is that they're in crisis. And when you begin working in this sector, it draws you and it keeps you here. There's just no way you can leave. And you see at first hand, firstly, what the situation is, but then also how you're able to make a difference. And so, yes, I've been here for a while, and I think I'm going to stay. Because there's always going to be so much work to do, and we need so many more people to come alongside and assist us in doing the work.
Again, if you have just tuned in now, tuning in to Bush Radio 89.5 FM, the mother of community radio station in Africa. The Early Learning Resource Unit, Elru, has been a cornerstone of early childhood development in South Africa for over 50 years. They're based in Lesdown. Elru works with under-resourced ECD centers by offering training, support with infrastructure, health and safety, compliance, learning materials, and registration processes. So now Elru has been around for over 50 years. What is the organization's core mission, and how has it evolved throughout the years?
So at the heart of what we do is really set children on the right track developmentally, so that by the time they get to grade R, they are ready for formal schooling. So ensuring that all the developmental areas, they meet all the criteria in relation to that, and they are on a good path to go through junior school, to get through junior school.
And why is early childhood development just a critical phase in a child's life?
So these formative years lay the foundation for what's going to happen later. And everything that happens in those years can predict what will happen. So if they don't have access to good quality services and support, you will see later on that there may be poor health outcomes, lower income earning potential, increased antisocial behavior such as drug abuse, violence, crime, substance abuse, and also higher dropout rates at school. So ECD plays a fundamental role in actually mitigating against all of those. And if we don't get the foundation right, then we will see some of the results that we do in our country, where in grade 4, 80% of our children cannot read for meaning, and 50% will drop out before they get to matric, and also a needs population that is not in education or trained. There are 9 million youth needs in the country.
Hello, so my name is Ryan. I just want to introduce myself quickly. So you mentioned a little bit just there about how sort of this early childhood development creates like a ripple effect throughout each child's life. But you also, I think ECD support, you said it leads to a ripple effect just in a broader education society as a whole. Could you talk just a little bit more about that?
So I didn't get that. It's in a broader society. It's if you just repeat the question.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that ECD support leads to a ripple effect in education and society at large. Can you just unpack that a little bit? Just, like how does it affect society as a whole?
So the early years from the foundation were basic for what happens for the rest of the child's life. And as I said, that when children, for instance, don't have sufficient nutrition at that age, it leads to stunting, which is low height and weight for their age. And we've got 27% stunting in the country, which is quite high. That leads to cognitive fallout, so that you have a number of problems later on. Also, without children being supported with the quality program, they lag behind developmentally. So when they get to grade R, some of them who do not have any access to an ECD program would be 2 years behind even entering grade R. And so you could see why they will now end up with not being able to read for meaning, because they're never going to catch up. So the schooling system does not remediate any problems that come with. They actually compound the problems that children into school with. At least if they start on a good path and they really holistically, it paves the way for better outcomes. We have a 50% dropout rate, so children starting grade R, only 50% will get to write matric. And that's quite high. Our matric population in the country, we only have 37% of adults who have matric. So as a society, we cannot build an economy with those figures or those statistics. We need to improve. Our education system is particularly the foundation.
Again, still tuning in on 89.5 FM, speaking to Tracy Fortune from the Early Learning Resource Unit. So, Tracy, can you explain what the Center Support Program, I know that you guys have CSP, which also is a Center Support Program, is, and how it helps ECD centers to operate more effectively?
Yes, so our Center Support Program is we focus on the poorest community. So we work largely with quintiles 1 and 2 in the poorest areas. Many of the centers, the fees are as low as 300 rand. So you find these centers are under-resourced. Some of the practitioners are not qualified. And also there's no learning program that is being implemented. These centers also then will fail to reach the child outcomes, and children will struggle, in fact, to meet the entry-level requirements for grade R. So we support with those things. We support centers to get registered, under-resourced centers and centers that qualify, or then once registered have access to a child subsidy, and that subsidy goes towards nutrition, administration, and teacher salaries. Then we support the management of the center with training, governance, financial management, and health and safety. We support curriculum implementation. That's at the heart of good quality early learning. So a good curriculum and the proper implementation of that is fundamental to child outcomes. So we do practitioner training, mentorship, development, and support. So those are the critical aspects. We also can, in case it really gets funded, assist with infrastructure, or renovation of centers, provision of equipment, as well at EPD centers. Most of them will be under-resourced.
And Tracy, how do you identify with ACD centers and communities to work with?
So we identify largely in the deliberately choose the poorest areas, and the fund. So should we get a funder, we will direct them to those areas, and we support the EPD centers within that community. In the province, we also are a service provider for the Western Cape Education Department, and we are assisting over 700 centers with the registration.
And so, what would you say are the biggest challenges that under-resourced ECD centers are facing today?
So I think the biggest challenges are one is that the teacher qualifications. So many teachers started out of a love for children and a need in the community, but they don't necessarily have access to or the qualifications where they can't afford it, in fact. And then also a learning program. They have to implement a daily learning program, and they need resources to implement. So training, mentorship, and support to implement those programs. Also the registration. Some of them can't afford some of the costs of registration, which are prohibitive, and teacher salaries are a big thing. They could get paid as little as 800 rand per month. So multiple challenges, in fact, across the poor, under-resourced community.
And Tracy, you'll find that, when it comes to ECD, funding is scarce. I know that in other parts of the country, ECD have to be closed down because of safety for the kids. But now I want to know, why is there such a funding gap in early childhood education, and how can stakeholders step in to close that gap?
So I think for years we have received the smallest part of the education budget in the country. It wasn't even part of education. So we would get about between 1 and 2 billion per annum, and we need close to 30 billion. There's now increased by another 10. So firstly, government funding towards it has been slow in coming, and it's been taking a long time. And then also, I think more and more people are beginning to understand and realize the value and importance of early childhood development. And I'm going to adopt a quote from Paul Romer, an economist and Nobel Peace Prize winner, and I'm adapting it to say that if a country cannot fix its early childhood development crisis, if South Africa cannot, then it doesn't matter what other problem we fix. We refer to youth development, but I would adapt it for early childhood development, because if we don't fix this problem, then every other problem that occurs is a result of this one. So you can have improved health outcomes, less burden on the health system, simply by starting in early childhood development. Less crime, simply by starting in ECD. Improved economic activity, improved school pass rates, simply by starting. Okay, I shouldn't say simply. It's not that simple, but we do have to fix the foundation. We've got to start there.
And you've got a fundraising event coming up at the Baxter Theatre. Tell us more about that and how people can get involved.
Yes, so in terms of fundraising and also just to raise awareness around early childhood development, and it's important, we are hosting one of the evenings at the Baxter, the Jive Funny Festival event, and it's on the 7th of June at 8 p.m. and tickets can be purchased from Elru. The contact person is Meredith, and she's contactable at Meredith at elru.co.za or telephonically on 021-762-7500.
And so for, once again, for our listeners who want to help, what can they do? Where can they go to help support Elru's work? How do we get involved?
So for listeners, ways with deeper pockets, investment is always, or donations are always welcomed. For others, it's the provision of resources, educational toys, books, or food. Nutrition, food insecurity is huge across all our areas. People have become poorer, and more people have become poor. So poverty is actually deepened and widened, and that support is always welcome.
If you have just joined us and now you're tuning in to Bush Radio 89.5 FM, we are speaking to CEO Tracy Fortune of the Early Learning Resource Unit, where we're speaking about the critical need for investment in early learning, as the future of the nation depends on the foundation built during a child's first 7 years. Obviously in South Africa, with the high dropout rates and concerning literacy levels at grade 4. Elru is calling on government corporations and individuals to support their mission before it's too late. And also they will be having an event at Baxter. Again, Tracy, if people want to be part of this and also the event, let's sell it. Let's sell it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Tracy, can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm saying let's sell it. Sell it.
Yes,
To our
absolutely.
listener,
So
where
please
can
join
people
us
go and what time?
and have some fun and support a good cause at the same time. So contact us on 021 762 7500 for the JF Funny Festival tickets on the 7th of June at 8 p.m.
Lastly, what would you like to say to that listener who's listening now? We know that in South Africa, we're one of the countries where some kids are left out of school because of poverty, unemployment, to a point where some of the kids can't go to school. What words would you like to say from the Early Learning Resource Unit?
So I think, everybody says that education is the most powerful tool a country can have to change a country, to change lives. And for those of us who have, is to reach out and try and support in some way to those who have less, and especially our young children who need it the most.
Tracy, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your listeners.
Thank you.
Bye.
Tracy.
Thank you. Bye.
That is Tracy speaking to us on 89.5 FM, Elru or Early Learning Resource Unit.